1972 U.S. 30 Dragster. The Coca-Cola bottle from Chicagoland presents the Mr. Chevrolet USA Super Joe Body Car Showdown. From Pennsylvania, it's three-time national champion Jungle Jim Lieberman. From Dallas, Texas, Mark Martin's Drag-On Vega. From Alabama, the bold one, Bobby Wood. From New Jersey, Bruce Weston's Fantastic USA 1.
My favorite partner.
Oh man, it makes my freaking skin crawl when I do it.
I get goosebumps every single time. I have them right now. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, I guess it is goosebumps. It's not making my skin crawl, but I got goosebumps from it. So, yeah, I got goosies. Well,
I got to tell you that this almost didn't happen for me today. I actually had to go for 2 days. Now, remember, I'm from California. We don't have ice storms. We don't have things fall from the sky normally. Anything fall from the sky. So for the last
ash.
Yeah, that's right. We had firestorms, but I had to go out there. Now, I'm not going to mention who I have for my carrier for like my home stuff, but there's a dish, and that dish got a bunch of ice on it, and I was wondering my internet's been so spotty for the past 2 days. I had to go out there up on a ladder in this thing here, earlier today, and knock out the ice on the receiver, and I actually have internet now. Yay! So
good for you.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get any of that weird stuff today or yesterday. No, it all apparently went a little bit north. My buddy lives in Hendersonville, a guy I went to high school with, and he got it last night, and I went out this morning, and there was like nothing. And I'm, all right, yay! Finally, I won on something.
We had like 2 inches. In fact, today I fired up both vehicles, and I had to knock off the ice. It was gnarly. It's like an inch thick.
Oh, I don't have any of it. None of it. I'm good. You can keep it all. Hey, so I guess we need to go ahead and we'll kick this off. It's Wednesday night. We're live. It's going to be some tech talk. Tonight's going to be a little bit different because we're going to have Lukey B here. And I have something in mind. I don't know if, I shouldn't really spill the beans until Lukey B gets here, but we're going to do something different. And we're going to compare. Yeah, no, it's something that you don't know. So,
okay, good.
Yeah, it's we're going to compare Professor P and Lukey B's gray matter together and see what we can come up with. Yeah, well, I just thought it would be kind of interesting. You got 2 guys that are officially like we're the cam gurus or doctors. I mean, Lukey B is presently the cam guru doctor at Howard's Cams, but you were presently the Crower cam doctor guru.
Yeah.
And I figured it would be kind of cool if we threw some combos at you guys and see what you come up with.
That sounds awesome, man. And like I've always told people before is that, engines basically are already set with their cylinder head, so on and so forth. It's just going to be a bunch of work. Where do you want that work to happen? Do you want it to happen down low, middle, or top end? So Camshaft just kind of tells it where it wants to do the work. So,
Yeah. And here's what I think is going to be interesting about it, because I'm just going to throw you guys some weird, zany, oddball combinations.
Okay.
You're going to come up with something what you would feel would be the best. And I really think it's going to be really close. I think you guys' combo is going to be really, really close together. And I'm going to give you all the world, like all the rope to hang yourself with, like and explaining why you chose that route. But I think it's going to be interesting and neat because you got 2 of the same cats, and like people tune in on Wednesday to get your idea on tech talk stuff. And now you got Lukey B, who's going to be the AHRA racers rep for Howard's Cam. So they're going to be calling him, trying to get the things, the same kind of, I guess, information that they would get during tech talk. So awesome. Before we get started, I just want to say, hey, David James, Uncle Squirrel, Mopar Man, 1978 Fab Race Mon Repeat out of Northeast Dragway. Mostly Old Parts, Ron is here. And then Mostly Old Parts and Rust, Patrick is here. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Greg McDonald, Auto Salvage Outlaws, David James, I think I already said that. Colleen Tebow is in the house. Danny Boyd, false start. Uh-oh. Did I improperly time the AHRA intro? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Buff's Garage, Greg McDonald, John, Mr. Crazy Wilburn is here.
What's up, John?
Yeah, I usually talk to John about every day, and I haven't bothered him today. He's probably thinking I was dead. Jackie Abbott is here. Let's see. Scarlett, the four-eyed Cuda, is in the house. Hey, I've been checking out Scarlett's videos, and if you haven't been watching those, go check out Scarlett's videos. He's actually, well, Scarlett is actually the car, but he does interesting, neat little things to this car, and it's already an oddball because it is literally a four-eyed Barracuda, which is like a 1 year only thing, right? So, go check him out.
Okay.
Let's see. What else we got in here? Jason's Garage Incorporated is here. I don't know if I said Greg McDonald. Big Block 402 channel. There was a video came up the other day. It had Candy Cane in it. And I thought, oh man, Candy Cane before the heartbreak. Gosh, she sounded good. She really did. Let's see. Buck Does It is here. And am I catching up? Mohawk 62 is in the house. And I think we're caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, Mr. Scarlett, the four-eyed Cuda. You got some interesting videos.
I'm going to go subscribe right now. Scarlett, the four-eyed Cuda. Okay.
So John Wilburn says, I caught Dallas working on the thumbnail for this live. The design assured me it was definitely Dallas. Yeah, I put something together that was, after I put it up, I felt was lazy, right? It literally was us, and I just swapped the sides and turned our sign upside down and then posted it up, and that was it. And I'm like, yeah, that just doesn't fit live. I mean, we're going to have something fun on here. So then I found Lukey B's picture, and I cut him out, and I added him to there, and I straightened everything out, and now we're back to normal. Let's see here. Caesar OSO says, greetings, Dallas and Shane. About the 350 Buick Camcom options, any suggestions for a solid option better than the stock with a range of 1,000 to 4,000 RPM for a fun purpose? Plus or minus 300 horsepower, 380 foot-pounds. Okay.
Let's hear yours because I already know where I would go. So let's hear yours. What would you do? 'Cause you're the Buick guy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of off-the-shelf pieces that you could get for this, but he's saying a solid.
Yeah. Do those have adjustable rockers right from the factory?
No.
Oh.
You don't want to run a solid in a Buick generally because you can't attain lash without having some adjustable rockers or adjustable push rods. And that's where you kind of want to stay away from those unless you have some other means of setting lash in there. But I would not go with a solid unless you have adjustable push rods or adjustable rock arms. And just for the sake of this, to say that you do, you're looking for 1,000 to 4,000 RPM. Those engines actually spun pretty good. They'd go up to 5,200 from the factory. I would probably lean more towards Crowder has like a level 2 solid. It might be actually even be a level 1 if you're looking at that. I don't have it in front of me. I know that I have a Crowder level 3 in my super stock, and it's all in about 6,700. So that's going to be too much for you. But if you were talking about a hydraulic flat tappet camshaft, I'd almost have to say if you're talking off the shelf, a TA 212 is probably the best piece that you're going to buy for that power band. 300 to 350 foot-pounds would probably be right where you're shooting for. Honestly, if you got 300 horsepower, you probably have more than that torque. You have probably around 400 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah,
So.
I would be on a hydraulic, I'd be in about the 210 to 215 duration and 50 on the intake. I'd be on a 112 LSA, just a little wider, just so that because you want to drive it, you're not looking for explosive power.
Man, should I throw out numbers like that? Should I have actually thrown numbers out?
Well, I just trying to help you,
Man, well, I don't even know the numbers off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's okay.
I can't do that.
That's what I'm here for. And then, but now here's the thing: is if you're going to go with the solid because of lash, I always like to add about 12 degrees, 10 to 12 degrees on the intake, and the reason for that is for the lash. So if you were going to go with the solid, I would start somewhere in the 220 duration at 50 on the intake, and it's still going to be about the same numbers as far as RPM, but you're going to have a much faster ramp rate once it gets opening. So it will make more power, but it'll still run about the same because of that. So I would be in the probably 220. I'd probably keep it on a 112. Yeah, I mean, you could probably get away with the 110, but you'd really make the idle not as good, because if you're looking for a range that's 1,000, that's literally right off of idle. That is essentially right off of idle. So I wouldn't be anything. I'd be with him. I'd be on a hydraulic. I'd be in the 210, 215 duration at 50. I wouldn't go any more than 215 degrees.
Well, here it just so happens that I have an Excel spreadsheet right here at my fingertips that has every Buick camshaft ever made, even including ones that are no longer in production.
Okay.
And I'm gonna see what we got here. What fits that criteria?
Mm-hmm.
So, where is this thing? All right, cough it up. Cough up the info. All right, here we go.
210 to 215 on the intake. That's going to really
50, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, 210 to 215. Oh man, I don't see anything that small. Okay, here we go. Oh man. Well,
but remember that.
Yeah, if Kenny Bell was still around, you'd have a Kenny Bell Mark IIH camshaft, which was your grocery getter camshaft.
Yeah.
It was let's see, at 50, it's 214 on the intake, 228 on the exhaust, and then a 113 LSA.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else is there? Okay. You got Lenati used to have a Voodoo camshaft.
Mm-hmm.
That was 213 on the intake and 219 on the exhaust, and 112 LSA.
There you go.
Man, so
what's the RPM range?
He's not too far off. RPM range on that Voodoo, 1,000 to 5,200.
There you go,
Professor P. You're nailing it. Well, let's see what else we can come up with.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that you don't want to go too big on that because he's going to lose all his meat and potatoes. He can go more.
So you remember I told you on a hydraulic to go with a TA212, right?
Yep.
TA212 is 218 on the intake, 230 on the exhaust on a 112 LSA. It makes power from 1,900 to 4,900.
But here's the thing with that is because look at how long that exhaust duration is. And remember, those ramps are super small. So even though that says 218, you said, right?
218 intake, yeah, and 230 on the exhaust.
Yeah, so I did all the camshafts for him. But remember, he wanted the camshaft so slow. That 218 is actually more like a 213 or 214 with the area under the curve because of how slow it is. Now, it's still going to have...
Yeah, the ramp rate's so slow on it.
Yes, exactly. But it's still going to do blow down. It's still going to have all these different things of the 218. So you're going to have the characteristics, but it's not going to nearly make the power. And the reason why I remember that, the reason why I had to go 230 on that exhaust is because he wanted it so slow on that one. The only way I could get the area at 300 was to extend that thing out so massive.
I'm mentally picturing here like literally a slow moving ramp and then it just falls off, right?
It doesn't even fall off. It's more like a gradual gradient and then it just keeps on going and then just kind of turns and then goes back down. Yeah, but remember, he wanted really light spring pressures, for light. He didn't want noise because that was the whole thing. He wanted them quiet. So there was a method to the madness. So all the camshafts for the TAs are a little bigger than what they need to be because you're trying to gain the area under the curve for the camshaft to make the power range. So
okay, yeah, fair enough because it's got slow ramp rate, so the numbers are actually a little bit misleading.
Yes, and that's what I did the kick-ass one for you, the double throw me down 455 one I did for you. That's why. What was the name of that thing? Oh, BMF.
That was the Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood BMF camshaft.
That's right. And that one, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to tighten everything up and make them as fast as possible, so that way you could get the smaller numbers. It would make the torque sooner, and you wouldn't have a blowdown. It wouldn't have. It would react like a smaller camshaft. I prefer a little smaller camshaft, anyways, because they always seem to make more torque, and that's what we're really looking for. But I'm usually on the conservative side, but for your camshaft, I put as fast as I could get away with, and man, it was awesome.
It sounded really healthy. The guy was impressed, but it did have and I brought it up to you as what did you call it? Crash on the back side of the valve, so you could hear the valve train in it. And like Buicks, you don't normally hear the valve train in them. You don't want to hear the valve train in them. So, but yeah, it's like that thing. It sounded healthy, and man, was it snappy. But if you're an AHRA member and you got your membership here recently, and you know that we got this deal going on with essentially competition products, right? The Howard's cams is synonymous with competition products, and I just thought it was kind of neat here. Howard's actually has a camshaft that fits that profile. Okay, so the Howard's 550121-12, it has 215 on the intake, 225 on the exhaust, and a 112 LSA. And it runs from 1200 to 5200. So Caesar, I mean, if you got membership, you can get a pretty good discount on that camshaft. Let's see, there's some Iskies in here. There isn't an Isky with that kind of short duration.
Is there at least a comp cam in there or something?
There is. There's a comp. Let's see. None of them are that small, though. See, the ones that were that big, I just kind of skipped on over. That were bigger than what we were going. But there is. Let's see here. Poston is all defunct. I'll say I got the comp Extreme Energy.
Oh man,
comp Thumper, comp Mother Thumper, and then comp Big Mother Thumper.
None of those are going to work.
Zero. Yeah, they're all on like a 107 LSA.
Yeah.
So, but let's see what else we got. Schneider actually has a couple of them in here. You got a Schneider 27 or a 270-80H. But here's the thing I don't really like about Schneider. Now this one's not exactly the same. This is 214 on the intake, 224 on the exhaust, and 112 LSA. And they say the power band is from 2200 to 6000. And it probably not with those numbers. It wouldn't be.
No,
not on a 112. But yeah, I've had Schneiders before. As a matter of fact, when I met Shane and he was already doing the Crowder thing, I had got a Schneider cam and he was like, "That's not going to work, dude. It's too much cylinder pressure." And guess what? I put it in anyway because I'm stubborn like that. And that sucker was very sensitive to fuel. If you didn't have 93 octane, you weren't going anywhere. So, and the rest of these are all out of production. Ultradyne, Wolverine, laser camshaft. Yeah, laser and straight pattern cam.
I'm actually going to throw out a comp, another comp cams one here. It's a high energy, so it's a straight duration camshaft. And oddly enough, 212 on a 110 cam. And it says from 1200 to 5200. So
that one actually sounds like it might be pretty awesome.
Yeah, 92-202-4. That's the cam number. So yeah.
It's a straight pattern, right?
Straight pattern, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you're going to do that, mix up the rocker arms. Get the early style aluminum ones with the older style steel ones on the exhaust side, and they have a little bit more. Oh my God, I'm brain farting right now. They have a little bit more ratio. They have a little more ratio on the metal ones, and that instead of being a straight pattern, you want to favor the exhaust side. On a Buick likes you to favor the exhaust side because they don't flow all that great. But you could use that camshaft and just mix and match your rocker arms, and you can have something pretty nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's the only downside is a lot of the off-the-shelf stuff is straight pattern stuff that was generally developed for a Chevrolet. and they will work on a Buick. You just got to know how to make them work. So, let's see. What else have we got here? I don't see any more questions in tech. Let's see. Val 360 Jimmy says, "Hi guys, is there any way that the average guy can tell if a cam has a slower ramp rate than another cam?" Oh man.
Yes, but you're going to have to be really, really good with you're going to have to be good with the degree wheel. You're really going to have to kind of look at it and know your rocker arm ratio. If you've got a wheel on it, an actual wheel, then it's a little bit more accurate. But if you just have like a regular rocker arm where it actually slides, the rocker arm is going to slightly change ratio. It's going to be like, let's just say you have a 1.5. When it starts, it's the pivot point is going to be a little closer. So it's going to be like a 1.4. And then it really doesn't get to the 1.5 until it's either midway through its stroke. Yeah. And then on the back side, it actually might be like 1.52. If it's that. Some of them are actually not even really the 1.5 rocker arm ratio. It's really going to be hard. But if you knew your rocker arm ratio, you could figure it out. And you could actually do it if you have it right off the actual lobe. And you can kind of see how much lift it is per a rotation, but you would have to make sure that it is dead on. And even the slack in your camshaft or your timing chain will it's the average guy is going to have a really hard time with that. I do it quite a bit, but it's difficult. So
well, I hate to hold us all up, but our special guest is actually checking in here and is hiding in the background, and I'm keeping him in purgatory at the moment. But Greg McDonald has a pretty awesome question here, but I don't know the answer of that. The General Kinetics Whiplash Cam. I don't have that unless it was a Buick camshaft. That's what my list is. And I didn't see it on there, but I'm going to throw Lukey B in here.
Awesome.
And sorry to keep you, entertained in the background.
No worries.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that I saw that a 1 came up over here in this all private chat, and I'm like, me? Private chat? And then also,
welcome to my OnlyFans.
And I was just like, knock, knock. And I was actually just about to type, who's there? I'll take the bait.
Well, so we're just going through answering some of the tech questions of the night at the moment. I do have something planned for you and Shane that's pretty interesting, because here's what I need you to do while you're there. Grab a piece of paper and something to write with if you can. And Shane's going to have to do the same, because what we're going to do is we're going to throw some questions at you, and then we're going to have you hold it up to the screen and show us your answers on what you would do in these certain situations. And I'm almost betting these things are going to be super close, right? Just because you guys pretty much have the same background doing the same thing, right? But let's ask. What we'll go ahead and do is we'll answer some of these tech questions, and then we'll catch up, and then we'll go into our I don't know what you would call it, game show of the evening. I only got 4 questions for you guys, so it won't take all that long.
Okay.
Okay, so mostly Old Parts and Russ asked, what can be done with the cam features to increase cranking compression? I'm at 120 to 125 PSI right now with a static of 8.3 to 1 compression.
Hydraulic or solid? Did he say?
See if he doesn't say. And I don't know if that has a I don't know if that's going to affect it all that much. I know for a fact that you can actually advance that camshaft.
Well, I was going to get to that, but I was going to say if it's a solid, you could just open up the lash a little bit. It'll make the cam smaller. It'll make everything go higher.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the easy answer is just less duration.
Yeah. Yeah, just make it small. But if he wants the same camshaft that's in there, I do that when I'm on the dyno quite a bit. Is I'll put the manufacturer's recommended lash in there, and then I'll start playing with the exhaust. I'll go up a little bit. I'll go down a little bit. Then I'll do the same thing on the intake, and then kind of go up and down just to see the characteristics. So that way I know if I'm building too much torque down low and I'm spinning, I can do this, and I can kill a little torque here and then bring it out there. And you're only really changing it by 10 or 15 numbers. It's not a ton.
Yeah.
But it will just move power slightly.
Mm-hmm.
What Danny Boyd says, oh, I'm sorry.
I tell a lot of guys that this doesn't really have anything to do with cranking compression, but if they're dead set on a stock converter, but they want a little bit of a cam in it, advance the hell out of the cam, and a lot of times you can band-aid that converter.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of our whiplash cams kind of do that, and they add a super ton of duration on the exhaust and then tighten up the LSA, so they're just blowing all that flame right out the exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
See, and I've already noticed the brain trust here is actually starting to. Do you know what a beam forming is? Beam forming is essentially on your headlights of your car. You know how like the old cars used to have two different headlights, one for low beam, one for high.
Yeah.
Okay, when you put two, let's say in this case, headlights next to each other and the beams overlap, the brightest part is where those two beams are overlapped, right? And that's what we got going on right now. And the overlap is like literally between these two, the two screens here between you two guys. And then I'm over here like, hey, is this booger
I
green
like
on
cars.
purpose? Yes.
I like cars.
But so Danny Boyd says the green cams is almost voodoo to me. I've never done a cam swap. And
the green cams is so much easier than any forum post I have ever seen makes it sound. If you know how to find top dead center, you can degree a cam.
Agreed. I've made a few videos on it. I did one for Crowder. I've done one on my channel. I've done them for Speed Society. I've done them a few. And whenever I did camshafts, they would put a camshaft in and they would call up and say, hey, my car's doing this and this and this. And they would tell me the cam. I'm like, okay, where'd you degree it in at? Oh, I lined up the dots. I'm like, well, you got close. You got close. I mean, you're in the ballpark, but between stack tolerances and who's, timing chain you're running and what year the crankshaft is, because sometimes they would cut that into the keyway. They'll put the 8 degrees in the keyway. So you put it in there. Buick was famous for that. You know that?
Yes, all the Buick cams that you have to degree them because you don't know who's got them cut at 8 degrees advance and who doesn't.
I had a guy yesterday that bought a timing set from a reputable company. It wasn't ours, but a reputable company, and couldn't get the thing to run. Ended up having him degree it in. The sprocket was cut 180 out. I can't believe the thing even ran. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So the dowel pin was flipped. So he was putting it dot to dot, but the cam it would have been like upside down from where it was at. I don't even know, like, so much in my head was like, man, you should have caught that going together. Like, something would have made sense. But man, this guy had the thing running and was popping and farting and backfiring. I'm like, congrats for getting that far.
Yeah, well, that's what my Lemons car sounds like, and it was all used stuff, so I'm assuming it's just retarded by like say 20 degrees or something. The cam or the chain is so stretched out. So
it's got all the RPM capabilities.
Right. Well, you got to do something when you only got like a $500 budget for the whole entire car, right? So it was like, well, let's just slap a bunch of junk together and I line it up dot to dot, and then that's it. But in reality, I'm probably, I know for a fact, I'm going to have to take it all apart. I got to figure out what's going on with it. And I think the chain is so stretched that it's already like, say, 20 degrees retarded. And that's the only thing that makes sense because it runs best when I get the timing up to like 36 plus, and that's initial. And so something's not right. Yeah, I tried I think 3 different distributors and 2 different carburetors, and it's like, holy crap, this is not making any sense. And so I'll find out what's going on.
Got the alcohol tune up in the Lemons car.
Right?
Yeah.
Injected methanol, you know what I mean?
All right. Yeah, we're I almost put this dude in timeout. Fab Race Mod Repeat says that we're playing the newly cammed game.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Shane and I actually pitched some ideas around, and I had come up with the idea of doing Hollywood Squares on YouTube on our Wednesday night Tech Talk Live. I thought it would be kind of cool instead of like Hollywood, it's like Hollywood Night Squares or something like that.
Could you imagine the characters that you would have?
Oh, man, yeah.
That would just be so awesome. It just
let's see. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much caught up here, but it's just chatting amongst themselves now at the moment. Greg McDonald does say that not all degree wheels work the same procedures.
Yeah, he's correct on that. We you can either do like basically intake centerline or centerline method, and then they also have ones that have opening. So yes, he is absolutely correct. I have one that, depending on which way you flip it, it will either be the intake centerline method, so that way you can add it up and divide by 2. And then you have the other ones that just wants to do the events. So it'll have like gray areas for just the timing events. So yes.
Yeah. Our degree wheels have both on them.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
really?
what most people have now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the ones with, I hate to say this, the ones where it shows the opening and closing of the cam events.
Yep.
Because then you can actually figure things out on your camshaft as it's actually happening and determine if you got, do I got it set up right or do I not? And I usually, and I'm not some wizard at degreeing the cams. I'm gonna tell you right now, I spend most of my time calling Shane every time I degree a cam. Every time. Right?
What I feel like a lot of companies, this is good information actually. What I feel like, so everybody, the industry standard is when you're doing intake centerline method is you go down 50 on the lobes, so 50 thousandths on the lobes. But so many companies, including us, are using asymmetrical lobes now that 100% doesn't give you the correct reading. So I'll have guys call that are 6 degrees off, 3 degrees off, and then they try it again and it moves and they're like, I don't understand what's happening. I tell these guys to go down 100 on the lobe and it comes up within a half a degree every time. So if you're struggling degreeing a cam, keep that in mind that the lobe might be asymmetrical.
Yeah, and I always check it at, I'll do it like say 20 down, I'll do it at 50, and then I always go down to like 100, 150, and then you can kind of split the average there too. Yeah.
Let's see. Doug Narden says, I would like to get in on this degree cam 101 mostly. I'll buy the beer, OG or Root, your choice. So I guess maybe that's probably one thing we should probably do, Shane, is a live cam degreeing on one Wednesday night Tech Talk Live.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can do that. That's easy.
I know I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll be on the phone with you. I might as well. I guess if we're live, it probably would help.
It'd be just like real life, you'd be on the phone with me live, and I'd be,
but you would be live, and I would be live at the same time, so we wouldn't have to be on the phone. All right. Well, okay. So we're going to put everything aside here, and you got your pieces of paper, and here's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to kind of compare what you guys would do in these certain situations. So that way, like normally people come in here on Wednesday night Tech Talk Live and they try to run their questions by Shane about camshafts. And usually what Professor P throws out there is generally what they go with, I'm assuming. But here's the interesting part. We got two people that have the same background, right? Perfect. And I think it would be kind of cool to throw these combinations at you and see what you come up with. And I'm almost certain they're going to be really, really close just because only certain things work, right? But I do think there's going to be some variations just based on your experiences. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting. So the first situation here I got for you, the first combo is a jet boat, a roots blown drag boat. It's a 1/4 mile drag boat. It weighs 1,000 pounds, and it has a 400 cubic inch limit. You're trying to make max power. So what kind of camshaft would you go after for this?
And when you say lemon, you mean like just anything?
What's that?
400 cubic inch. You said lemon?
Limit. That's the most.
Cubic inch. You heard lemon too, right?
Yeah, I heard lemon. I'm like, man, what is this, like a iron block, iron-headed turd, or what are we talking?
No. I'm sorry. It's a 400 cubic inch limit.
Okay, limit.
Okay. Standard headers, not boat headers, like water headers.
I would have to say, since it's a drag boat, it's probably going to be drag boat headers, which are probably zoomies.
Just back and forward, or back up and back.
Water injection. They're going to at least be water injection, not water jacketed. They're going to be over transom then at that point, and they basically just mist into the exhaust for that reason. So that way they just don't burn. They don't get so hot that catches the
boat on fire.
Boat on fire, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not going to go under transom. It'll be like water jacketed.
Yeah, I'm like, how? I guess drag boat should have answered that question, but I'm like, how serious of a boat is this? Because this has bitten me before.
Yeah, no, this one's a pretty serious boat, and it's like you're going all out for max power for a boat, but the boats don't operate in the same RPM band as like your car, right? So, I thought it was just an interesting kind of combination to come up with. So,
I have a question.
Okay.
It's a jet boat, so impellers. What's the impeller? Do you know?
We're gonna call it a propulsor, right? A propulsor jet. Is that what you're looking for?
I think he's looking for like pitch and stuff.
Yeah, like
how much pitch is on it?
Well, no. In it on a jet boat, they'll imagine it like a converter. So you'll have like a AAA, a AA, a single A, an AB, a B, a BC, and then a C. And it really depends on where the RPM range is.
Well, pick one.
If it's 1,000 pounds and it's a jet boat and he's going a quarter mile, it's probably going to be a B or a BC, because that's going to put it up there at about 6,500 RPM. And then they also have a thing called a shoe and a ride plate. And what it is that because it's water, obviously, they're going to have a shoe is going to come down, and they're going to usually put a wedge in it. So as the RPM, as it goes higher, faster, you're going to load the pump. So it actually acts like kind of like an overdrive per se, because you're kind of loading the pump on this side, so it's not trying to pull it in and cavitate. So that way you'll flash. If it's a B impeller, you're going to flash to probably say 6,500 RPM when it comes out of the hole, and then as you get going, it's going to bring it back down to probably 6,300 after it gets rolling, because you're going to start loading the pump. So it's going to flash 65.
It's like controlled cavitation almost.
Exactly. And then usually they'll have a droop snoop just for this exact thing, and then a ride plate. So there'll be a point where it's only riding on literally probably something about the size of this piece of paper on the back, and then the jet is going to be drooped down behind it. So
let's
just
pretend
induction enough for the water.
Let's pretend like Dallas knows nothing about any of this stuff, and he wrote something down on a sticky pad in like 5 minutes.
Or maybe that's what really happened.
Or that could have happened.
You cool with that? You cool with that? I forgot your name, but I'm sorry.
Luke.
It's Luke.
You go with that? Let's just go with a B. Let's go with a BC impeller, which is pretty much going to be everybody's going to have that style impeller for that. We'll go over transom headers, water injection, not water jacketed, root style blower. Oh, how much boost, by the way?
Well, since it's a roots blown combination, let's 14? Say 25 pounds of boost.
25 pounds.
Well,
so are we on alcohol then?
Right? He's probably running methanol.
Okay. Oh, that's easy. I don't even need to write. Well, I guess I have to write it down, right?
Yeah.
All right. So am I writing like my duration at 50 and?
Yeah, we don't need to do lift because
we're trying to come up with a combination.
Yeah, lift is irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people that all the time. Until I know cylinder head numbers, just the duration is going to set the everything where it's going to be at. And we're at 400 cubes, and we're running 25 pounds, and we want to go 65.
You guys I feel like I'm on the spot right now. I'm like, I'm gonna overcam this thing. I just know it.
You want to know what? I'm famous for going a little smaller in camshaft for a reason, because they'll always be happier because you're gonna make more torque.
Yeah.
And we're running methanol, so we're gonna have to go.
I'm gonna need to write that way bigger. You get it.
Yeah, I actually started to write it, and I was like, oh, I gotta make it bigger.
I should have written it bigger on my little sticky pad, because I'm just having a hard time reading the question.
Are you putting the advance in it?
Yeah, I'm going to do LSA and then also ICL.
Great.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yep, 1 second. Yep, I'm ready.
Yep.
All right. So, you want to go first, Professor P? This is your house.
Put them up at the same time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right. So you
Yeah.
got Professor P. You're at 258 to 260.
Yeah.
And then let's see.
Two,
Lukey's got
250.
274.
Oh, I see what he did.
14 ICL.
So is
Oh, he's doing +4. Yeah. So we both are on the same. See, what's funny is we're both on the exact same ICL, intake center line.
Mhm.
I went with the 112 because I was trying to build a little bit more torque on it, because I wanted to get it out of the hole. And since we're going to be running so much boost, I didn't run nearly as much camshaft on the intake, but I ran it on the exhaust. So that way it'll build more torque because you're going to be putting in at 25 pounds. If I was running like say 14 pounds, I would probably put 10 degrees on this. But because we're running 25 pounds, it doesn't, in my opinion, didn't need all that for me. That's why I went with my numbers. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I was thinking the thing weighed 1,000 pounds, so it didn't need torque. So I'm like, let's just get it up in the RPM range and let it eat.
Let it eat and get it, build that boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, our cams, just because of the lobe separation on paper, like as far as events go, probably aren't that different, but they are going to do two very different things.
Yeah, they'll do two different things, but they're really going to be very similar as far as how they're going to perform. And it's funny too is that the intake center lines are going to be really close, and that's funny because they're really going to react about the same as far as right when they come out.
I guess
generally like boosted stuff, I would never go less than a 110 intake center line on boosted stuff. I just don't think there's a point to it. Just you're putting such a small cam in them anyways that you put less cam in something that goes still 7,500 RPMs in some of these boosted turbo combos, and you need them to RPM with these little camshafts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so then to summarize, Shane, you had yours bring in the torque soon, so you had less duration, right, at 50?
Yeah, I went 258 to 260. Yep, on the intake. 270. Can you see all that? 270, 272 on the exhaust. And the only reason why I give two numbers is because cam stretch, and also too sometimes when you can't, some manufacturers don't always have the exact like 258. So I give a range so that way they can either go higher, but I would never go lower than 258. So if they call a manufacturer and say, hey, what masters do you have in this number? Well, I've got this one that does this amount of lift and has this ramp rate, so on and so forth. And but it's going to be here. And that way you kind of get a range of numbers.
And then so in Lukey B, you had yours not coming in with a bunch of low end grunt, but making it all in the top end, right?
Yeah.
And that was all with duration. So your duration was at 268, is that right?
268, 274. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and it's just interesting to see two trains of thought on the same kind of combo, right? Especially people that specialize in this kind of stuff. So,
and I went with a lot of split between the two because it is methanol. That's a lot of fuel you're going to put in that thing. So, and I normally change the ramp rates on the exhaust. I'll make them really slow to help with blowdown. So that way it doesn't,
It's funny you bring that up. There's two different schools of thoughts on alcohol blower combos. There's tight cams, and then there's guys that say, no, you need them wide. And it's which guy has gotten burnt on which one.
That's correct. And what's funny about that too is it comes down to your fuel system and how reliable it is.
Exactly. If it's like, I just assumed that this was probably going to be like a mechanically injected deal, so that's why I went tighter on it. But I have stuff that's got 15 degrees of split in it that's EFI on methanol, and I don't even care because the fuel distribution is so much better.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So for the next combo, this is something that you probably deal with on a daily basis. This is a street strip combo. We're going with 400 cubic inches just because that's a good number. Everybody runs 408, 406, 383, 392. And these are kind of the numbers that you would kind of see on a daily basis. But this is a street strip combo, 400 cubic inches. It's a drivable performance or drivable / performance, right? So it is street strip. It's got a 3-speed automatic and 373 gears and runs nitrous. Okay, 150 shot of nitrous.
Okay.
So if you're going to,
how big of a converter are we going to put in this thing? Like 2,500 if it's treatable.
It's a nitrous combo, and it's 400 cubic inches at 3,800 pounds with a 373 gear. I guess the ideal converter for that would probably be 25 to 2,700 RPM. the ideal combo.
Yeah, because it's going to be 2,500, but then when you hit the juice, it's going to go up.
It's gonna
that much
flash.
higher.
500.
Yeah, it's going to flash. It's going to flash higher. Now, are we going to launch it? Are we going to come out of the hole on it?
Out of the hole with the spraying like a madman.
Got another question too. Is this going to be a nitrous camshaft, or is this going to be a mostly naturally aspirated? And when we want to, we're going to put nitrous.
That's it. That's what you're looking at. Primarily street driven, and then hit it like a rented mule on the weekend.
Okay.
Pump gas.
Actually, I didn't come up. You know what? Since it's a street trim combo, 93
Okay.
octane.
Yeah. 93.
And were we saying like 10-to-1 compression?
10-to-1 would probably be ideal for.
Okay, because that's usually what those stroker kits would come in at, anyways.
Yeah. This one's gonna be fun. I like this one. We're gonna probably have 2 different complete numbers on this one.
Yeah. It's funny. I know the part number of the camshaft that I would sell this guy, which is funny.
Well, did you see when we were looking at the camshaft numbers earlier for the Buick question? I pulled up my handy dandy Excel spreadsheet and I threw a Howard's cam number out there.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with. Now, when you do, we're going to do one. Yeah, this is the one. 12. And I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with. Oh, yes, perfect. Sorry, I have a hand. My hand doesn't write nearly as good. I got a plate and screw and all that stuff in there, so it takes me a second. But yeah. Ready?
Go.
Oh.
Okay, so what do you got? Shane, you're bigger than the
you're
screen.
way bigger.
Yeah, I'm way bigger. 408. Yeah, because that's the camshaft.
There we go.
231, 235, 110, and then what is the +4? Is that the ICL?
It's got four degrees of advance, so it'd have a 106 intake center line.
Yeah,
Oh,
I went
okay,
with the 108 on that. I went bigger on this. That camshaft that he has, that's what I put in my 360s for my 470 cubic inch type deal.
Mm-hmm.
470 horse type combination I have. And I'm thinking of a 408 small Mopar. 245, 253 is what I had in mine. And I had a 2500 stall in it. And I used to hit it with a 250 shot. So, but I had it on a 114. So 150 shot, I tightened up the LSA to a 112. And then I did a 108 ICL on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't generally like tighter lobe separations with nitrous. But for a guy that's got like a that's like Saturday Night Special kit or whatever, that cheater plate
Right.
is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
will
up to 150 shot. Yeah.
Yeah, they say 150, but a lot of those don't flow 150 right off the shelf. Usually you have to work on them to get them there. But,
Oh, really?
Yeah. So something like that on a 110, you might have to pull another degree or two of timing on the kit, but it's not usually a huge deal. And then I was thinking, like, if the guy's going to drive it everywhere, have fun with it on the street, something that's on a 110 is going to be way more fun on the street. And 231, 235 will be way more reactive with all that cubic inch, especially on a 2500 stall. It's almost going to get a run at the converter. So it would hit the tire really hard.
Yeah,
basically
really snappy right off idle.
So the cam that I picked last time, we just flipped places. Essentially is what we did on this one.
Yeah, we just flipped on this one. Yeah,
but people relate to stuff that they know. So I always bring up David Freiberger and his disgusting. So first round of that car, it was like a 406 or something, small block Ford, 408 small block Ford, and it had a 218 225 cam in that thing, which is nothing, no cam for that. But all he talked about was how much fun that car was to drive. So I try to tell people, like, if you're not going to be at the track all the time, if you're going to do like 4 or 5 track events a year, and realistically you're making 3 or 4 hits while you're there, and maybe 2 times you'll spray it, pick something that's going to be what you're going to be driving all the time. So 231, 235, and like a 383, 400 inch combo is basically like almost a step up from an RV cam in a combination like that. But they eat up the bottom end.
Huh.
They love it down low.
Yeah, they will. And he's right. That would hit that converter really hard. So that would actually flash it even harder. I was relying on the converter to get mine going. But when you hit it with the nitrous
on the top end,
well, no, as soon as you hit that thing with the nitrous, it's going to flash that converter to like 3,500 plus.
Yeah.
So it's going to go.
I like radial tires too. So in my head, I pictured a 275 radial on this thing, and probably like a leaf spring. I mean, you need to hit that stuff hard. So that would have been a good combo for a medium prep track, and a radial tire would have really liked that combination.
But see, your combo, Luke, when you spray it, is going to hit that converter like a freaking freight train or a sledgehammer, right? I mean, you're going to know that you just sprayed it because your teeth are going to fall out. Kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's going to 60-foot well.
Real hard.
On the back tires.
Yeah. All right. So the third combo, this isn't our final. This is the third combo.
Okay.
And you know what? The first one, I'm going to award Shane the points on. And you got 11 billion points on the first one. Okay, just to let you know, Professor P gained 11 billion points on the first.
11 billion.
Yeah, I'm just making this up.
Is my kid giving you these numbers?
Yes. And Lukey B, you got the same amount of numbers on the second one. Okay,
Ooh,
so now it's dead heat, right? So this is the third one. This is an oddball circle track combination, 5-liter cubic inch limit. Okay, so the 305 stuff that a lot of circle track groups are going to because it's supposed to be cost effective and low dollar, right?
Like
but
race saver stuff, like is that what we're talking about?
Right. I was more thinking like, you got 305 sprints, but if it was in a late model or like a late model car, right? And then so you're looking at a half-mile dirt oval, and you're running a 2-speed manual. Okay. Do you need to know a gear?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Go ahead.
Is it a tri-oval? Does it have straightaways on it, or is it a continuous like? Does that at least have at least a straightaway on it?
It has 2 straights on it. 2 straights, right?
Well, some have like will have like a one straight where the grandstands are, and then in the back it'll be almost a continuous kind of curve. It's like a tri-oval like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just call it a tri-oval then.
Okay.
So it has one big straight on it.
Okay.
Good stick on the track or loose?
I know he's asking this, and I already know.
So he can load it, right?
Lobe separation angles.
Yep. Yeah.
What
do you say, Dallas?
I'm going to go with it's pretty loose.
Oh, loose track. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Good driver, bad driver?
That should have been the first question from both of us.
Because I'm telling you right now, you can kill yourself with a camshaft.
Well, we'll call it experienced driver. Experienced driver would, yeah. Okay, so he would not be the newbie guy in there, but he's got a few seasons under his belt, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, are we going to say hydraulic flat tap it or mechanical flat tap it?
Well, a lot of these guys like to limit it to hydraulics, don't they? When they do the small cubic inch, they try to keep the cost down. So I think they do go with hydraulic flat tap it is the limit for those. So we'll call it a hydraulic flat tap it.
Okay.
And half mile?
Half mile dirt oval. It's loose with a competent driver.
2-barrel? 4-barrel?
2-speed manual. We're going to go with 4-barrel. I know a lot of guys like to run 2 barrels in this kind of combination, but we're going to go with the 4-barrel.
Okay. And you said good driver, right?
Good driver, yeah. He's a competent driver. All right, what do we got in here? Oh, this is a good thing that Mr. Chris Cox just came up with. Before you answer, okay, he said, this kind of combination should be the 500 lift rule. Should be limited 500 lift.
Oh yeah, none of those cars need over 500 lift anyways.
No.
Okay,
because
they all think they do.
Yeah, and there's so much limits on the heads, so there's really no point to go past 500.
So it's all duration, duration at ramp rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Nope.
Boom.
Okay, so Shane, you're getting hold it further back. 248 to 250, 258, 260, 106 LSA, and 104 ICL. Let's say so. Luke has 248, 252. Dang, you guys are real close on this
Yeah.
one. 110 LSA, and then he's got 100 ICL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went because it's a bigger track. That's why I split 10 degrees on the intake and the exhaust for run out the back end, because these things you're really only making power right off the corner, and they're really just RPMing the back. You're just carrying it out the back door.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with the 104 ICL with a 106 LSA because experienced driver. If I went normally, if the guy's not as good, like, okay, let's take for instance the 604 crate engine. That's on a 114 LSA, but people who are learning how to drive can come out of the corner and literally flat foot it, and they're going to catch traction all the way around the corner coming out because there's no explosive power.
Because your torque curve is just
so flat. Yeah. So if you have an experienced driver, you can tighten that up to 106, and then literally they can just basically come off the corner and they will pull 2 car lengths on someone with a tighter LSA because the power hits so hard. But it falls off, but they're so far out there, the other person can't get underneath them because they're just holding the RPM. And
which is why I advanced mine so far.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he advanced it so far. See, I did it a different way. Mm-hmm. And then like I said, the only reason why I carried the 10 degrees is so it carries the power longer. That's the only reason. Normally I would like that tighter, but if it's on, like, say a fast burn head or a type of deal, and mine would be on a 1.6 intake, and I would put it on a 1.5 exhaust, so that would bring it down a little bit on the exhaust. So it would probably be close to what he's got.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, and so you kind of had the same kind of thoughts about it then, Luke?
I mean, it's funny.
Number was pretty close.
Yeah, it's funny because circle track is so much of our business, but guys will call and they'll tell you the combination, and you can almost, like, sounds really bad, but you can take a cat nap 30 seconds and come back and not miss anything because they're all cheating the same way. Yep. They're all doing this, they're all doing that, and the only time my cam selection changes is just based on the driver. If he tells me it's a high bank 3/8 with a hydraulic, I'm usually high 230s, mid 240s duration. If it's got a lot of tack to the track, it's a tight lobe separation. If I can really talk to the guy about chassis setup and average power that the car is going to make, and talk to, like, have these guys actually take some numerical gear out of the cars because they all love gearing. I will talk guys into like 240s at 50 on a 110 all the time, just because that engine on the dyno will probably make more average horsepower, but they want that kick in the pants 9 times out of 10. So you kind of got to cater to the customer. But
have you ever done this for a customer? Now, I did it because I knew the guy really well, but he was just dead set on getting on a 106. Now, I watched videos of him driving, and he was checking up coming off the corner. He was into it, and he would check up on it each time. So I cut it on a 112 LSA, and I put in the clamp card I put on there 106, right? And then I told him to install it on a 104 ICL. I said, it's going to work. It's going to be fine. He was like, man, that thing's magic. I'm going to have to make that cam. And then finally, he's like, man, I can come off the corner and I can hit that and I can just roll into the throttle. I don't have to step on. I just keep it flat to the ground. I'm like, I said, oh, I'm not going to, I almost said his name. I almost said his name. I was like, that's cut on a 112. I said, when you get some wins under your belt, then we'll start changing things and we'll make the thing faster. To this day, we're friends on Facebook, and that camshaft is golden, and he hasn't changed it a bit. He keeps it on the 112.
Yeah, if you can get those guys on the wider lobe separation, they never go back, but they always want a 106.
Yeah, for the sound and the torque, because they want that instant off the corner torque. But there's so many tracks that will start wet and then get a dry line, and then they can come out. They basically hit the throttle faster in the mid part of the corner instead of nearly at the end with a 106.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad it actually just turned out. So, we're going to have to split the points between you two. So that's the last one, right?
So we both get half of a, what was the thing? 11 billion?
11 billion. Yes, but
Okay.
here's the thing. It was going to come down this way anyway. It was rigged. I know somebody. But so the last combo is full out drag racing. This is going to be right up both your alley, because I'm sure this is something that you would do.
Mm-hmm.
Drag racing, 3,200 pound car.
Okay.
It's a 5-speed manual with a 321st. Right? It's got 513 gears, and it's a 4-link back half car.
Big tire?
Sure.
Okay.
It's 14-to-1 compression, but it's only 300 cubic inches.
Whoa. So
I have so many questions.
Sure. This is essentially what modified was when it went away in like 1982.
I just have a question about the clutch.
Sure.
Slipper
Slipper or not?
I see him smiling, so he's probably asking the same thing. Is it a slipper clutch, or is this something that
It's
got
a
weight to
slipper.
it? Slipper clutch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slipper clutch is centered iron, right?
Mm-hmm. And
The hammer of God.
and
Yeah,
carburation. What do we got for carburation?
Oh man, carburetion's 2 dominators on a tunnel.
I saw that coming a mile away.
So we're talking RPM then.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And it's coming through the traps at 10.5, 11.
Shoo. I can see this car in my brain right now. I know exactly what this car is.
So it's an over square engine then, right?
Oh yeah, significantly over square. This is more or less like anything you would have seen at the drag strip running Sportsman modified about 1982. It would have been like a Nova with like a 283 Chevrolet that was, essentially a D-stroked 302 or 301 Chevy that they used to do.
I'm not going to give a range on this one. I'm just going to give the actual numbers. I'm going to go
The hammer of God, huh?
hammer. Oh God.
Well, that's centered iron clutches are the hammer of God.
Well, when they lock up, they are.
Yeah.
And it's 300 cubes, you said?
300 cubic inches. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just want to make sure I had 300 cubes because I'll be there.
When you say 300 cubes, I'm picturing like 327, right? Or like we're saying 300.
Yeah, it would have been your old 301 Chevy, the old modified tried and true motor. That's the 283 crank and a 327 block.
Okay. So it's a 4-inch board then.
Changed my mind.
Oh, okay. Hey, just so while you're doing this, I want you to know I did not know any of these combinations before. I promise you, I don't know anything about it.
I told Shane we were going to do this, and I said I was going to come up with 4 combinations, and this was literally...
That was it. That's the extent of my knowledge of this.
And I just came up with... I tried to come up with something that was wacky or outdated or would actually put your mind to work, right? Because, if I said 383 Chevy with a single 4-barrel 4150 and a set of fast burn heads or AFR 195 cylinder head, that's the kind of crap you guys hear every day.
Yeah,
right?
265, 274 on 108. Boom, done. Because you're not going over 7,000 RPM with that combination.
Right.
Yeah. If that was like you're saying a mechanical cam, probably, right? In that combination, yeah. I think hydraulic roller and everything. I love hydraulic stuff.
Now, just make sure that this is a solid roller setup or a mechanical.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has got to be a solid.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would assume this would have to be a solid roller.
Yes.
Yeah.
You ready?
Oh.
All right.
Holy crap!
Wow.
I went smaller, and he went way bigger.
Shane went huge.
I went huge because 10,000 RPM.
300 cubic inch though.
But 10,000 RPM on a cast on an AFR head. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like either way, I don't see that combo making power to 10,000.
No. I was going to give it every shot, but
a lot of those used to be like those were inertia things, and they would stop making power like 8,500, $9,000, somewhere around there. And then it would be the inertia of essentially the flywheel and the combination going on the track. They just get to a point at like the 1,000-foot mark and they would kind of just sing, right?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, the cam that I picked is a cam for that RPM range because, I mean, you can give it all that extra duration and it like, I'm sure your cam probably would have made a little bit more power, but on the track, like who knows? They probably would have been pretty close.
Yeah, on that one, I don't know because on 268, I had one of those in a now it was a 318 cubic inch combination. Obviously it's a Mopar, but it wasn't a roller, it was a flat tappet. And it was funny enough, it was actually a comp cam. It was 268, 272 on a 106. They have it in their book, and I had one of those half-ass tunnel rams. Remember those ones that had like a long runner, but they had the very small plenum. Remember those? It was like a Ford, not Ford, but it was the Chrysler style, and I didn't like it. It didn't do what I wanted to do. Now it wasn't Dominators, obviously, but it was just I think there were 660 center squirters at the time.
What was your intake center line on that one? I missed it.
Oh, 110.
Okay. Yeah. So we both had our cams backed up. Yeah.
Yeah. I basically had it straight up time because I didn't advance it at all because I was trying to back it up. I was trying to get that late closing intake closing event to happen after 60 degrees is really what I was trying to get to kind of take advantage of that ram air effect. People, they call it supercharging, on the backside when it's closing up. Because at that RPM, I've seen some things on the Spintron. Once they get over like 8,500 RPM, you got to have a ton of duration to keep that thing open. They did was it EFI University? Didn't they do something where they did an LS where they took it to 10,000 RPM? Do you remember the cam specs on that or the engine on that?
I don't know. I'm actually going there in a couple of weeks.
Was that the Spintron one they took to 10,000?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they did two combinations. I think they did a rectangle port and a square port combination, and the first one was like 8,500 or 9,000, and the other one they went way past 10. But
yeah,
I'm sure knowing Ben, it didn't have as much camshaft as a lot of people think in it.
Well, the head really helps with that, right?
It does.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The LS cylinder head is just amazing. Yeah, well, I like to call it Stage 2 Buick 2.0 because that's what that thing is. But anyway, I gotta take a break because I gotta use the men's room real quick. And I don't normally do this, but I ate dinner right before we came up here, and so give me just a second.
Leave the two cam guys alone to kill each other.
No, there's probably a lot you guys got to talk about. Yeah, but before I go, Levi Sandalis, can we have a modified class come back? I love high winding small blocks. That is my true colors, even though I'm loving the turbo stuff. Hey, I brought it back like 3 years ago, and just a FYI, we're going to give it another crack this year over at Wilkesboro. We're going to do a nostalgia modified. I don't know if we're going to do a shootout or we're going to do an actual event, but we're going to have it at Wilkesboro Dragway. So they're down for it. We're trying to put it together on top of the Don Carlton Memorial Pro Stock race. So nostalgia Pro Stock stuff. So if you like high winding, gear banging, dump the clutch, and watch them twist up like a pretzel, that's where you're going to need to be this year. So give me just a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Sure.
I don't know.
I found the article real quick, and I'm actually doing the math real quick to see who got a little closer on this one. 8, and then times it by the stroke. Was the stroke 3? 1
on Ben's combo?
It's the EFI University. They did 950 horsepower at 10,000 RPM.
Okay, so that was the second motor then.
Yeah, exactly. So that one is actually 350 cubic inches.
Yep.
And let's see here, I just had the cam specs here. It was 2. 270, 276, 294 on a 114 LSA. And
So
they don't.
On a what LSA?
114.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that's a.
Those LSs like that wide lobe separation though.
They do, absolutely. And the thing is, we're trying to compare apples to oranges here on this.
Yeah.
LS head, that thing flows an amazing amount of head. AFRs have got good heads, and I think this was a Frankenstein head too. That's on this.
And they always have so much more exhaust in them. Any LS combination, unless it's a turbocharged combination, they always have a crap load of extra exhaust. Like something like 236, 250 in an LS7, that engine loves that cam.
Yeah, and in fact, what's funny is that I'm normally the conservative guy on camshafts. It's funny. I'm on the. Oh, he's back already.
That was quick.
That was quick.
Do you wash your hands?
Of course. So I just made a spot right here in this chair.
So I do. You know what? Just for funsies, let's do with my my engine before we get into any more questions. Let's try my engine.
Okay.
So this is a Gen 3 Hemi, and this is going to be a Cone Dodger road racer driver that I can drive. It is a 5-speed 68 Dodge Dart. It's going to have a 355 gear in the rear, and the first gear on this one, I believe it's 280 something. I think I bought the close ratio TKX box. The cylinder heads are 5.7 Eagle heads, and they were ported by Frankenstein. It is a 6.1 with stock bore, stock stroke. The valves are the factory 5.7 valves, so they're the 2055 with the 155 exhaust. So obviously I'm trying to get, velocity there. At 300, I believe it flows 310 CFM at 300 valve lift. And, I wanted something that made power, like I want peak power to be between 6 and 6,500. That's where the peak power is. I'm going to run it to 7, but it could be on the backside of the parabolic after 65, but between 6 and 65, that's where I was looking for the peak to be. And what else do I have for this thing? I do have a factory length rod in this. Oh, and I'm running a 6.4 intake with the variable valve runner and an 87 millimeter intake on it. And the car is probably going to be right around 3,000 pounds with me in it. It literally is. It's a triangulated 4-link, so it's it's got some stuff on it. So coilovers all the way around. It's going to have a jungle gym, and I think that's everything that you need to know. Do you have any questions on it? Yeah, go for it. I'm doing this for you guys.
Oh crap! Okay, can How do you backwards it?
That's
Can you
good.
read it?
Yeah,
no, it's
nice.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably what I would have picked.
Really?
Yeah, maybe a little. I might have gone probably high 230s, but I probably would have put more exhaust on it. But I don't do a lot of Hemi stuff, so I kind of rely on what we have in the catalog.
Those things breathe like monsters, man.
Imagine an LS with a better head.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So it probably would have been like 238, 250 maybe, something like that. But I probably would have done 114.
Yeah, here's what I went with. I went with 229 on the intake, 235 on the exhaust on a 110 LSA.
Well, you're even more conservative than I was.
Yes,
I was not very conservative.
Now the camshaft, you guys are correct. That does need that camshaft to make ultimate power, but because that cylinder head flows so well, like literally at 200 valve lift, it's already over 270 CFM, and it's a high velocity port because I'm running a small valve intake, a small valve exhaust, plus a 5.7's got a much smaller bore than a 6.1. So there's going to be no shrouding on any of the valves, and I didn't go bigger on the valves on purpose because I was trying to get high velocity out of it.
So you could have a very strong torque band all the way through.
I'm looking for a flat torque curve all the way through because this is going to be. I'm going to do some road racing with it. Now, if I do road racing, it's going to be in the 235 to like what you were saying, exactly that, because it'd be 235, 240, something on a now I like the 110s for something that's or even maybe a 112. If I go to the bigger camshaft, it'd probably be on a 112, just because the overlap triangle, I don't want it too much because it's tuning them is kind of pain in the butt. But I wanted that instant torque off the corner is what I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I every time a Hemi head comes up, I second guess myself every time, and I always get blown away by what they actually do. Yeah. Like Andy Wood's combo Casper. That truck had a camshaft that was probably 10 or 15 numbers less than I probably would have even recommended, and completely discounted the fact that it has Boss heads on it, and the thing made exactly what I thought it was going to make on the bigger cam with his, I think it was like 270s at 50 is right around where that thing made, or right around that camshaft, and it made power all the way up to 75, mid 7,000, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I went there. We're going to dyno it here. I'm probably going to chassis dyno it instead of actually doing the engine dyno. And I'm running the lash. It's a hydraulic, but I'm running it 20 thousandths off the bottom. It's a trick that I do quite a bit with when I build my engines for people. So, a lot of people, they'll tell you 20 thousandths from the top, but that's for driving. That way you don't have to ever touch it again, whatever. But for me, I've always done them. I'll bottom it out, then I'll come up, and then I'll use like a feeler gauge, and I'll get it 20 thousandths. And so depending on your rocker arm ratio, you add it up. This way I can make sure I'm right here. 0.02 times that by 1.6. So you're looking at about 32 thousandths is what I'll do at the actual valve. So that's 20 thousandths of preload in the lifter. And I do that on purpose. So that way, if it starts getting out of control, it becomes a solid then, and you're only losing, the 20 thousandths in the lifter, so 32 thousandths. But if you're way up on top, and it's basically the exhaust that's really going to go out first, because you're opening against cylinder pressure and spring pressure. So that's going to collapse the first. So if you can't really do the intake, I would always get the exhaust as tight as possible in the hydraulic. It's perfect. Yeah.
The only downside to that is if you do run into a pump up situation.
Yes, but we were doing the math on that earlier. Remember that?
Does it clear yet?
What's that?
Wow.
Does it clear yet, even if it's pumped up? Like if piston the valve, if it pumps up and hangs?
Well, I've never actually personally ever seen, even on our Spintrons and so on and so forth, a pump up scenario. Normally it's a collapse scenario. When we put them on the Spintrons, they always get less. I've never seen them get more. So what happens is, like say for instance, you have a 250 duration camshaft. Once you get them over, like say 6,500, you're going to lose. If it's like the extreme energies, for example, because I've actually seen the charts on these, they would lose up to about 7 degrees of cam actual duration at 50, 3.5 on one side, 3.5 on the other, because of the flexion, just in the actual push rod. You're actually getting deflection on it. And then also, too, the hydraulic starts to go out, even when you put them down near the bottom. Then you get a pole vault effect over the nose. So it actually creates a little bit more lift sometimes. And then it comes, and then as it comes back down, it crashes back down. So that's personally why I do it. And what I normally do is I do the math. So like, let's just say you have like 75 pounds of oil pressure, and then you have a piston that's a 3/8 of an inch. So what I normally do is, this is like the low pressure side that's actually in the hydraulic lifter, is that I'll just do the math on that. So what I will do and I calculate it. So I would do 0.375, let's say divided by 2. I would square that, times that by pi, and that gives me the square inches. And then I would just take that for the PSI, so it's pounds per square inch. I'm just getting the square inches. I would take that answer, times that by, say, 85 pounds. So the most that thing would ever see as far as pressure pushing against it would be 9.38 pounds of actual pressure pushing against that.
This was last week. This is what we were doing last week. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's how much pressure. No, it was a little longer now. I think it was last week. But that's how much pressure would actually see, plus the mechanical advantage of the rocker arm. So like say you have 500 pounds of, or let's just say 400 pounds of spring pressure. And then go in the other direction, you have 400, and you would times it by 1.5 because you're getting the mechanical advantage. So you're putting 600 pounds of pressure back down. So I rarely see the pump up. What people, what I think when they're saying pump up is collapse is what I'm saying. And then it's starting to bounce. Is the exhaust coming over because you're opening up, it collapses. When it goes over the nose, it's expanding, trying to fill full of oil, and then when it hits and then it bounces, and that's when you start seeing the and then when it does it on the intake, it's really going back up the other direction.
Yeah. I think the when basically if the lifter ever comes unseated is basically where a pump up situation would happen, because you would essentially fill the lash up with whatever's there. And then if it's not an efficient enough lifter to bleed back down, then it's hanging the valve. But have you ever done anything with the Johnson short travels?
Yes, absolutely.
So those are really interesting to set up, because you set them up with like 15 thou of preload, because when it warms up, they actually want them at 0, it's super interesting that those things can RPM the way they do when everything, like thinking back to the NMRA days when they were running the 5.0 stuff, where you would just bottom out the lifters, like you said, and then bring them up a quarter turn. But the Johnsons just seem to love it up there at top. But the mechanics of the inside of that has to be everything of them.
Yeah, and you have to make sure you have a square deck. Anytime anybody was doing a Hemi, I would tell them to do number 1, do number 7, do number 2, and do number 8. Check those push rods. Just don't check number 1. Now, Hemis are really good. They have some of the out of the box, some of the best decks. They're squared. They're made sure they're 90 degrees. They're basically line honed. And what is it when they put the
deck plated?
Deck plate, yes. Torque plate. Yeah, torque plates on them.
Same thing.
And,
yep.
Yeah. So they do that. So like when I'm building mine right now, I checked all 4 corners and they were within half a thou of each other as far as.
That's really good from the factory.
From the factory. So, half a thou, that's, 0.0005. That's pretty good. So, I didn't really do much on that. I did a dingleberry hone on that thing just to unglaze it. Really. And dude, I do that on so many things just to unglaze it, to kind of just give it some thing for the rings. And it works really good.
Yeah. You know what's horrible out of the box as far as like everything being square? The almighty LS.
Really?
Yeah. If you know anybody that has done like rocker geometry with the factory rockers, those mounting points on the heads. Oh yes. Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, when I was at Crowler, I did a lot of rocker arms, and the pedestals where they would sit, just ridiculous.
Yeah, like a ski jump sometimes.
Well, hey guys, let's get back to some tech. There's a lot of questions building up here. So we got Clayton's Toolbox says, considering a 425 Olds build, what's the pros and cons of the 425, 455 Olds? Can they be built to rev to 6,500 RPM safely?
Sure. They don't need to, though. I mean, you have enough money, you can always put the money into the bottom end to make something stable. Valve train has come such a long way that's probably not the issue. It would probably be the bottom end holding together. But those things make so much bottom end grunt that I don't really see them needing to go that high.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, Dallas. Weren't we just talking about Oldsmobiles this weekend?
I was. The 429 is kind of its own animal, or the 425. I'm sorry. The 425 is it was made around the same time as they made the 330 Oldsmobile, which has its own weird angle of where the push rods, the lifters ride on the cam at a weird angle. And
the 49 base close to the 30, or the 39 opposed to the 45 degree bank angle.
Right. And it's only those 2 engines that I know of that were like that in the middle 60s, I guess. And then all the later Oldsmobiles, they went to the standard, what was it?
39
degrees. And you didn't have that issue any longer. But what's weird about it is that 330 Oldsmobile and that 425 is the only two Oldsmobiles that I'm aware of that were made with steel cranks. Now, I'm sure some of the racing application 455s or even 400s were made with a steel crank, but that 425 guaranteed if it came in Tornado or a Delta 88, it had a steel crank. But it also had that funky lifter board deal. Now, revved, the thing that Shane and I were talking about is Oldsmobile has the biggest main journal out of every single big block there is. Okay.
It's 3.5, isn't it? 3.5?
3.5-inch main, right? You think about this. This is like literally a city block in drag racing terms. Okay. That is like the largest diameter. And the further you get away from the center of the crankshaft, the faster the bearing speed gets. Okay. And the more oil you need to cover that. And besides the more oil, because the higher bearing speed, you also have more bearing surface. So you need even more oil. Mm-hmm. And it just starts to become a problem when you wind up an Oldsmobile. The downside, the Oldsmobile said it. Ford Cleveland guys, sit down. You're going to cry. The big block Oldsmobile has ports like a Cleveland, and they're humongous. You could literally hide a can of beer in one of them things. But because the main is so damn big, you can't rev it like that to utilize that cylinder head, right? That's where I think that Oldsmobile is so mixed matched. What would be best is the small block Oldsmobile, the big bore small block, like a 403. If you could find a block that wasn't a windowed main and turn that sucker up. And I think it'd be something really to be reckoned with. I really do.
Since we were talking about bearing diameter and we were talking about Ben's high RPM motor, bearing surface, like you said, is everything. I mean, that motor, they used Honda rod journal stuff in it to reduce the width of the bearing, so it even had a smaller area to ride on. Yeah, oil control and
you're not looking for 100,000 miles, you're looking for 1,000, right? And so you can sacrifice things like that and say, like rings. That was the whole point of the expensive coated rings.
Low drag,
used to be
low friction.
Right. Low friction. You didn't care about it sealing all as much. I mean, as long as it held some oil in there, you're okay. And that was about it. You were looking for no tension whatsoever. But,
that you were talking about the Honda rod journals. We did a lot of that at Crowder with the Quad 4 first, and then we have some of the Honda journals, but we also did a lot of piston guided rods. So you would have like a 1/4 inch between the rods. So there's not like 15,000. There's literally a 1/4 inch. So the piston was basically guiding the rod at that point.
You're talking on like the bearing surface on the crank, like you had. Okay.
Yeah, between them. So basically, the piston, the rod would go up, and the rod would fit between the pistons. So the rod wasn't being guided by the crankshaft. So the rod was being guided by the piston, and then basically it was just squared up on the rod, and they would run, basically Honda journals. A lot of guys, NASCAR does this, and a lot of guys, I did a lot of camshafts and cranks for people at Bonneville. So this way they can just, especially on an engine that's going to be like, say, a dry sump system, you're just going to be pouring the oil through there. And then because you have so much gap between there, you can get that oil out really fast. And that way you're just constantly coating it. Mm-hmm. That was a really cool trick I saw. That was the first time I ever saw it.
Well, Levi's Backyard Performance was asking me what was the class rules used for the modified production. I used modified production rules from 1975 from AHRA, NHRA, and IHRA, and then 4 years before and 4 years after. So that entire span from 71 to 79 is the rules it took me like 6 months to come up with this set of rules. It's probably the one I have the most effort in, but and that's what I used for modified production. It was actually the sweet years of modified. You go past 79, and that's where it's a crash, where you got back half cars with big tires. That's not modified. If you go back previously, they weren't allowed to modify the wheel wells, so you couldn't have a big tire car back then. Let's see. I don't know if I got any more questions. We need to grab some questions here because I noticed that we're losing our audience, I guess. They're talking amongst themselves. Okay.
Hey, before you go into this one, John Wilburn was talking about Andy's cam. Did you see that?
Way back there?
Yeah, it was actually just about
What
three
time?
above what you were just talking about. So it says Andy's cam. This is John Wilburn said this. It's 259, 236 at 50. He's running a 172 rocker instead of a 1.6. He also did a lift.
Yeah, I knew it was way smaller than I would have put in it or thought to have put in it.
Yeah, and that's heads right there. That's what that's going to do. Cylinder head.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, Dal. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's all right. I was actually kind of surprised. I was looking for that one, and I don't see it anywhere.
It was basically the last one that you looked at. It's three above that. 3 at 8:16, so about 15 minutes ago.
Man.
If you go back to the one that you were just at, count 3 up. Levi's backyard performance.
Oh! I thought you were talking about the one I was just clicked on. Okay. Oh yeah, 624, 656 at 259, 263.
Yep. Yeah, because I remember I told him, I'm like, I probably would have been at least in the mid 270s on the intake for you. And then he's like, oh, yeah, but remember boss heads. And I'm like, there you go. That's why it's making power all the way up there.
Yeah.
Hey, John, do you know what his lobe separation angle is by any chance?
I think it's a 108. It's a shelf cam for us. I'll just look in the catalog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember him saying that he looked up, and he found one that he actually identified the numbers. Him and Visor identified the numbers that they wanted to run, and then found that you guys had a shelf cam.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that.
106.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that,
John says it's on a. He says it's on a 104.
104 intake center line.
Yeah, that's the ICL.
Yeah.
That one I would say is probably 2 degrees advanced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Wait. Oh, so it's 4 degrees.
Oh.
Sure, it's 108.
That's what he says. He gave you the part number right here. 222313.
313.
Yeah, something like that. You wouldn't really want to go.
We have it in a 106 and a 108. So yeah, he must have. Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's a pretty interesting combination for that monster because it's making some serious numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, did he dyno it? I haven't seen it yet.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, it made really good power. I don't remember offhand what it was. I'm sure John will chime in because he was part of that.
Did they do a video of it or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Who's
I want to say it was like 700 horse or just shy, like 698.
Yeah, I think the goal was to break 700 horse.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember whose channel was it on?
It was on his Unity Motorsports.
Unity. Yeah. Okay, let me check that out.
Yeah, I want to say when they first dynoed it was just a few numbers shy of 700, and then they worked. I guess
some carburetor stuff. I think they had worked through.
Okay, so John's chiming in here saying it was 708 horsepower and 525 everywhere. Peaked at 598 foot-pounds.
Yeah, it was a beautiful curve that it ended up with.
Yeah, well, those hammerhead heads are no joke.
Okay, yeah. So 5 months ago, they got it right here. I have it queued up so I can watch it afterwards.
Okay. Well, A Cove says, what cam specs would you choose for a 528 cubic inch Gen 2 Hemi with factory top end headers, 10-to-1 compression, and 410 gears, mostly cruiser with occasional strip 3,800 pound car?
You had that one for that 331 up for a second. Figured I'll just jump back to that one real quick. I think the guy's name was Robert, but he asked if a smaller CC head would be good to basically keep everything streetable. It's almost a loaded question. I get so many people that call and they build these 10.5 to 1, 11 to 1 compression motors, and they want to street drive it and run it on pump 91 or 93. And the camshaft that I tell them that they need to keep that thing where they don't have to fuss with it, because got to keep in mind that a lot of these people are on distributor style ignition with not a lot of timing control, which is everything with compression and pump fuel. And then fuel distribution on a carburetor, they work great, but it isn't what it is on EFI. So if you're something 10.5, 11 to 1, you're probably going to need more camshaft than you want. So I would tell you, figure out what your static compression ratio would be with various cylinder head CCs, and aim for something that's going to come around 10, 10.25 to 1. That way you can put a cam in it that's maybe in the teens on intake duration at 50 or in the low 20s, and you'll be really happy with how that drives and how it performs, and you won't beat your head against the wall trying to tune it.
You know, it's funny you say that, because that's exactly where I went on mine. The 6.4 I think comes from the factory with 10.98 to 1 compression, but it's got variable, you know, you can advance and retard the camshaft by a lot.
And coil packs, so your timing range is giant.
Exactly. Yeah. So on my engine, I went with 10.3 to 1. I actually got less compression out of it. So that way, if I ever do drag week and I go to somewhere like Illinois and it's got like 91 octane, I'm not going to have an issue. And that's
crap. 91 octane. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, so that's funny you say that, because I wanted to be safe. I wanted to, you know, and even on my engine, if you go to like any dyno engine simulator, I don't trust them personally, but it gives you trends. This, you can look at trends.
Exactly.
Use it you can look at how things work with things. Putting in my combination, and then you start changing compression ratio, even going up to 11.5 or even down to 9.5. It really didn't change much of the torque. Really, it didn't, because it's such an efficient cylinder head. And that's the reason why I went with the Hemi.
Yeah.
And because it just works so well. And that's why I went really conservative on the camshaft, is because I think it's going to act much bigger than what I think, because I think the peak flow at 630 lift on that thing is 350 CFM, and that's race car cylinder head.
That's a shit ton. Yeah, there's off the shelf AFR stuff that doesn't do that good.
Yeah, and that's basically an over the counter, you know. And I'm running a factory crank with just, you know, I think I think I got Manley rods, and I have a Mahle piston. You know, it's a coated piston, and
all great stuff.
Yeah, and I believe I'm running the brand new Evolution lifters in that from Column. Those are the ones that have the little insert into them. Those things are awesome. Those things are awesome. It's a short travel type deal, so it works good. Yeah, and it oils up through the push rod, so it's a good deal.
All right. Well, we don't have any more questions at the moment. So
we got that 8 Cove guy. The what cam specs would you choose for? You still have it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Right. I thought you had already answered that.
No, we haven't done that one yet.
Nope. Yeah, 528 Gen 2 Hemi with factory top end. Headers 10 to 1, 410 gears, mostly a cruiser with an occasional
strip. Yeah, 3,800 pounds.
What I would want to know, probably right off the bat, is do you have manifolds on this car? Because headers.
It says headers in the.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But the big one is like, what's the converter?
Yeah, I mean 528, you can put a fair bit of converter or a fair bit of cam in that, and it probably won't need a whole hell of a lot of converter.
And with a 410 gear, and he's probably going to be running a 28 down under tire. You know, you could really even get away with a 25 almost at that point. Converter, it's going to make so much torque, it's going to flash that thing when he needs it.
Yeah. I'd say on the small end, I'd probably be mid 230s at 50, and it would be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's not going to want to RPM this thing, because it's going to be a street driver. And
he wants to take advantage of that. Yeah, he wants to take advantage of that 528 cubes.
Yeah, and at 230, I would personally probably tighten it up a little bit on the lube separation angle, maybe a 110, because Hemis love overlap. They love that overlap. So, and that would actually kind of give it the sound that he was looking for, but it would be such a bitchin' driver, because it's going to be not much bigger than a factory camshaft. I think those things were factory like 220 or something like that. So it would really sound it'd be a little bumpier than factory, but it would run like factory.
Yeah. The reason I completely glanced past the headers thing, but it's so many of these guys that call in, Mopar guys, that have manifolds on these cars because they're 500-inch strokers, but those cars are so valuable that they want to keep everything looking stock. And I've made some really weird camshafts for these big motors with manifolds on them, just
exhaust
because.
Manifold.
Yeah, you got to hang the exhaust valve open forever to make anything move.
Well, let's see here. Oh, we're talking about Newcastle Ale. Damn it.
Oh, there's
You ever
actually
had that?
one down here. Yeah. You go down. There's Michael Schmidt actually has a good one.
Oh, Michael Schmidt?
Yeah. I'll text
okay.
Patrick later.
Oh, okay.
This is a good one.
Can you, I'm assuming, explain max horsepower and reasonable RPM of a 1970 crate Mark IV Big Block Chevrolet with forged crank rods, 8-to-1, 5 pounds of boost with comp marine 236, 246, 400 lift cam, and 114. I'm assuming that's LSA, right?
5 pounds of boost of what? Probably a roots blower, right?
Yeah. Usually most Marines are going to be roots blowers. And I'm assuming the way this thing is that this is going to be an IO. So it's going to be inboard, outboard, from what he's saying. Because most people are going to say right off the bat that it's a jet boat. So if they're not saying anything, I'm going to say that this is an IO. So it's going to have a blade on it. And as far as what his combination he's talking about, this thing's going to make a ton of torque. And it's not going to be very high RPM range, especially with those cam numbers on a 454. I mean, this is basically these numbers
lift,
right here,
right?
Huh?
So it's 400 lift. So he's just capitalizing on essentially port velocity. So this thing is all torque, right?
It's all torque, exactly. So imagine this camshaft is every car that you heard in 1980 that would be going around. You know, your Nova or whatever. It was basically this camshaft. Putting 5 pounds of boost on it. I'm going to say 525 is my guess.
I would have said low 500s. Yeah.
But the torque is probably going to be like 750 or 800 foot-pounds.
Yeah, it's going to be in the 600. In fact, that's where he's going to be.
Oh,
I would
really?
I would say it's probably going to be in the 600. The only reason why I say that is because you're you're only at 5 pounds of boost. So, but it's going to come in right away. It's going to be a positive displacement. So it's going to come in right away. But with that 114 LSA, it's going to make it nice and flat. So that's a good setup. You'd be stoked to drive that.
Oh, on the street, that would be a handful, honestly, because it'd have so much low end grunt. No matter what gear you had in the rear end, it'd just absolutely blow the tires off the first time you stood on it. Yeah,
he actually commented down. It's a 174 roots blower, so it's small from B&M, and the cam is it's a V drive. So basically, it's just it's a V drive. Yeah. So it's a blade. So yeah, that's what I figured. And a lot
he
of
also said he built in 1995 out of college, still runs great. Usually runs up to 5,500. Wondering how much higher is safe. Probably don't need to turn that thing any more than 5,500. No. Low lift like that.
It's probably all in around that.
Yeah, it's probably all in around that, and I can guarantee you the heads aren't moving enough air to capitalize on any of that anyways. So, yeah.
Safely, he was asking now, he goes, how high can it run safely? Question mark. That comes down to how much oil you can keep on the bearings and keep everything filled up.
It's a big block Chevrolet. 5,500 probably ain't even bothering it. To be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, those things, when you start getting above any big block, when you start getting above $6,000, you got to start wondering, right? They got a lot of main bearing, right? That's the big thing about them. And I think that crank is a lot. Well, okay. With all that main bearing, that's not that big deal. I mean, as long as it has enough oil going to it. But, man, that's a lot of mass for that crankshaft. They're heavy. But I'd say 5,500 all day long it could do. No problems.
And to answer the question, 6,000 RPM, yeah, that's a max I would run that personally if it's got all parts being equal, it being stock on the bottom end, 6,000. Because what you're really going to have a problem with is the rod bolts. That's where you're going to see the issue with anything and it's really not necessarily on on the compression and the power because it's being pushed down. It's on the exhaust and then the intake because that's where it's 100% on the rod cap when you come up to RPM, and that's probably got a big heavy piston in it too. So 6,000, that's what I would say max safely.
Well, Danny Boyd's saying he loves fast and pure factory stock drags. And have you guys ever gotten into this stuff?
I watch it. I watch it on YouTube.
I watch it too, and I've only seen like highlights in magazines. Like Hemmings used to do a thing on it. The pure stock muscle car drags up in, was that mid-Michigan, I think. But I would have to say it's guys like us that are probably never going to really participate in that because that, if you think about it, is those cars aren't freaking pennies.
Because you got to find a car that had that. That's how they do it. It's not like I can just go get my 68 Dart out of the corner and just say I'm going to make this into whatever. It had to be that car from the factory. That's the problem. That's
it's like guys of our generation don't generally have those cars. That's the boomers that have them. They had the money to buy them when they were new. They had the money to buy them when they were, clapped out overnight. No longer distressed merchandise kind of stuff in 1978. And guys like us were just born then. So like literally the cars were already coveted in the 80s to where, that's the first time I'd ever seen a 6-figure car was in the 80s, was a Mopar E-body Hemi car, right?
Yeah.
6 figures. Oh my God, $100,000. And you could still buy a regular Challenger or a Cuda at that point for about $500. Today,
to go off of what Dallas is saying there about the being expensive and everything. So I did a cam for a fast car recently, and Roush is building the engine. So if you're paying them to build the engine,
I'm sure
you got some coin. Yeah.
That is a cheap sucker
and
right there.
have you seen what they do to the tires on those things?
Yeah.
So factory appearing stock tires. So they literally put those things on a lathe and take the tread off of them so they're slick.
And then they soak them.
Yeah. VHD.
It's a technique. I remember, I guess it used to be Muscle Car Review was the first time I'd ever seen the pure stock muscle car drags, right? Or factory stock. It might have been factory appearing stock tire. And they sanded it. It was like a Nova. It's like a 69 Nova. And they sanded the car down and put one coat of primer and didn't even block it. And then one coat of paint to save 12 pounds or whatever it was for weight on the car. Right.
Wow.
It's like, that's when you know you've gone
too far.
Here you are Fonzie and you are jumping the shark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like
that guy made it not fun for everybody else.
Yes. Yeah. The fun level just went out the window.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And I was part of the crowd too, where I was getting $500 cars. That's what I wanted. I got $500 car. I go to the wrecking yard, buy an engine for $79 that had a warranty on it, and now I'm racing. That's where I came from.
Well, you know what? Like, okay, so Shane and I were talking about, we're of the same generation. Luke, you're probably 10 years younger, right? You're in your 30s.
I am 30 years old.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're 18 years younger. But okay, the thing was, Michael Schmidt sent a super chat here. Old Big Block Chevrolet boat wants to go 75 miles an hour. Thanks, guys. Well, turn it up.
5 more pounds of boost. I was going to say 5 more pounds of boost, and you'll do that. And then change the pitch on the propeller to load it more, and then go from there. That way you don't have the RPM any higher.
I bet you could probably pitch it first, and then I bet you that Big Block will take that because that thing makes so much low-end grunt with that blower, that camshaft. I bet you that thing makes enough torque you could just probably change the pitch on the blade and it would do it 75 miles an hour. But
Dan Boyd said Horsepower Depot, great channel for the fast content. That guy's got a beautiful car. You should check that channel out just to see that Camaro.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
What I was getting at is like Shane and I are from the same. We're the Generation X material, right? And our whole generation was about sleepers. That's what everything was about. the sleeper, and
Yep.
you did not buy some hot rod performance car with badging all over it and a Roadrunner. If you wanted to go sleeper, you bought the clapped out, pretty much the Brady Bunch wagon, and you went and whacked somebody's ass by a fender. That's all you did. You didn't put gaps on them. You didn't bust length them, because you were in it for the next guy that's going to step up, right? Oh, I just beat that guy last week by a fender. I'll race this guy. And you beat him by a fender in your family wagon, your Polera. But,
yeah, we got to kick John out of the chat.
Why is that?
See what he says? Don't say it. Don't say it.
We have them in the catalog. I actually, I won't say it. I'm telling you. But if you go to the Crowder catalog, I'm telling you, it is there. It is there.
Well, I remember you sent me a picture like probably 3 or 4 years ago where you ground that in the back of the cam. You know, when you look at the part number?
That's right.
That's what it said in the back.
And the cam card says the cam in my engine right now for my 408 that I raced Dallas with, that is literally a 3/4 race cam.
And I'm going to call it the 0.75. The 0.75 race cam.
We had one come into the shop the other day. I opened the box. First 4 lobes, those split in half right there. There you go, 3/4 race cam.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so funny.
Oh, John's just rattling your cage. He knows how much you love that.
Yeah, what a punk.
Yeah. See,
so you were talking about your high school cars. High school car for me was, I had a 94 Prelude SI. Had a super short gear set in it and went 9,000 RPMs. And then the one after that was a Volkswagen GTI, so 1.8 liter turbo, and we basically you pin the gate shut. And the thing made 250 horse, but got to remember that car didn't weigh anything. So completely different era of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Michael Schmidt's throwing some knowledge out at you. The 0.75 cam is in the 1950s hot rod magazines with no specs. Such marketing BS.
Yeah.
I think I was digging around at our office. We were trying to find old catalogs for these people that are calling in with cams that are 30 years old. And they're like, what is this thing? And I'm like, it's a shelf piece. You don't put that in your engine.
You want old catalogs? Hold on just a second. I got something that'll knock your socks off.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. While he's doing that. Okay,
yeah. But these catalogs, like, there was like hardly any cam specs. Like maybe advertised number, a lift number, no lobe separation. Like, it was crazy. Now, like, everybody they want to know 200 numbers. They want to know, like, crazy how everything's changed that way.
Put in camshaft part number sometime. 63422-2. This is a Honda camshaft for an H22 series VTEC basically style. Literally, it says stage 2 camshaft, 3/4 race all motor / turbo.
Is this for Crower or Comp?
Yeah, it's for Crower. I'm telling you, put that number in there. It is 63422-2.
Wow, you weren't kidding.
No, I named it.
And it's exhaust only. It's the exhaust only cam.
No, you have to hit the -2. If you
okay.
And then we did a performance one now in California. You have to go and smog these cars. So the 63422P was basically the primaries and the secondaries were completely stock. So they were absolutely stock. So it'll pass smog. But then it had the stage 2 3/4 race cam VTEC. So VTEC was 256, 257, duration at 50 for the mids, which is your VTEC. But 199, 198 on your primaries and secondaries. So that's the 3/4 race cam.
Kick in the pants.
Yeah.
Well, so I got this. Does this look 1960s-esque? Okay.
Yes.
This was my buddy's stuff. He left it here. This is the books that David Vizard probably learned on. Basic. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get it in there. Okay.
Basic valves and exhaust systems. Basic cams, valves, and exhaust systems.
Okay, yeah. And it was, let's see, The last time it was checked out was from the Dallas Public Library in January the 27th, 1968. All right, so that's the last time it was checked out. You'd have to go to the card catalog to look for this book. Road and Track. Look at that on the cover, the new Mustang.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I got a few of them. There's a few of them I got squirreled away here. All right,
I still got yours, Dallas.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, you got to bring that to me, dude.
No,
we got to meet up.
Yeah, we got to meet up. And I had it with me.
Here's a Peterson's engine book, number 9. Complete book of engines, number 9, Peterson book. So this was
those are
Peterson
still
published.
good material.
Oh yeah, all this stuff is so neat. I like the old stuff because, to tell you the truth, I think the old guys had it figured out. They didn't have the best of carbs, they didn't have the best of ignition, but the numbers were still there.
Yep, it is just an air pump.
Yeah. So the Weber Tech Manual.
Oh yeah, I had that one.
That's pretty cool.
I was my very first race cars were Volkswagen Bugs, so I was all about the Webers. I had the IDFs and then I had IDAs, and the IDAs
I love those little air cooled engines.
Yeah, the IDAs were essentially idle or full throttle. The IDFs had an intermediate circuit, so you could drive them on the street. Yeah, but can you guess what my engine that I do a lot of things with? Like I make a lot of content with believe it or not, is a Slant 6.
That's what Dallas told me.
Yeah, dude. Do you want to talk about a very difficult engine to tame, to master, to live?
Those are just weird things.
Yes,
like all through and through. They're just weird.
And see, that's what. But everyone used to say that the Mopar group is weird. It was really that engine was so weird, it made the rest of the group a little bit weird. It was like like you put purple Kool-Aid in your glass of water, right? Well, eventually it's going to be purple all the way across. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. But that thing has so much in common. See, I got the V8 version of that, and it has so much in common with the Slant 6. It's stupid, small bore, long stroke, small valves, heads that don't flow well. The whole idea is if you can make one of those work, man, you really got something going on.
Yeah. And that's why I like it. People say, well, the Slant 6 is indestructible. In basic stock form and a little slightly modified, I agree. Here's the problem is that I drive my cars. I will drive mine. I got in it here in Tennessee. I live in basically by Memphis, and I drove to the duct tape drags in Tucson, Arizona. I left on Thursday at noon, 11 o'clock, and I rolled in there 23 hours later, nonstop, 80 miles an hour the whole way in my car, which is about 2,600 RPM, going the whole time. Now, the thing about the Slant 6, it doesn't have a lot of oil going to the rocker arm, so I do a lot of oiling modifications just to keep the springs cool, because I've worked on a dyno, and I see how hot those springs get just from cycling. And the meager amount of oil that comes out of there, it might be great for Slant 6 at certain RPMs, but if you're going across, the desert essentially at 2,700 RPM, they tend not to like that. I burned up many sets of rocker arms until I started modifying oiling systems on them. Backfeeding things, giving things high pressure oiling, putting restrictor valves in different areas of it, just to keep the oil on a level playing field all the way throughout the engine. Yeah. So it's a funky engine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey guys, I hate to break up the good time we're having here, but literally it is 2 hours and it has flown by.
Is it? Really?
Yeah, it really is. I'm surprised because I looked up and it was an hour and 52 minutes, and I'm like, holy crap, this flew by. But I'd like to thank Lukey B for coming on and playing our not so good, more or less impromptu game show.
That was fun.
It just goes to show, you're gonna. I thought it was neat with the circle track stuff because it was almost dead same numbers.
Because the circle track, I'm telling you, I did hundreds of those camshafts, and he's so absolutely correct on what I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm cheating here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you're like, man, I heard this conversation an hour ago, and then I heard this conversation,
4 times yesterday.
It's copy and paste every time.
Every time. And especially right now, that's happening because everybody's gearing up for most racing starts, April-ish, for Circle Track. So they're all building their stuff right this second. They always wait until after Christmas, and then it's just
I need a cam now.
Yeah, right now.
You needed a cam in September.
And it's custom. It's custom, just like the other guy ordered. Exactly like it.
Yeah.
So, but I thank Lukey B for coming on. We didn't even really push too much of the Howard's Cams competition products racer rep program. Get your AHRA membership. So literally March 1st, it's starting that you're going to be part of the racers rep program. You get a discount at competition products. 5 to 25% off, depending on what it is. They pretty much cut all the overhead out and give it to you for their cost. So it's the easiest way to sponsor racers when you spread it across the whole group. So
yeah. And like always, if we didn't get to a question you guys want to answer, or you just want to ask it in the comments, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. Once again, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. Put your questions in there. I've been actually answering some of them as we've been here. I got 3 of them as we were here, and I was answering.
You didn't get your homework done? That's it. Detention, mister.
I got all my homework done except for pictures. I'm going to hold off on it. I'm going to wait another week just for funsies.
I have pictures. Okay. I will catch you all next Wednesday, and me and Professor P will be back. We'll be answering some questions. I don't know if Lukey B is going to be back. I haven't asked him.
Figure it out.
All right, we'll chat about it offline.
Awesome.
But we got to go. We're out of here. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys later.